Got it? Thumbs up. You want this rewritten, smoother, cinematic, powerful narration, same meaning, cleaner flow, no cringe promo lines. Here's the polished version. I could smell the expensive perfume from across the courtroom. It was the kind that costs more than most people's monthly rent, and she wore it like armor. You think you know how this ends? You don't. It was a Tuesday morning in March when I glanced down at my docket and paused. Madison Rivera. Age 24. Charged with reckless driving, 78 miles per hour in a 35 miles per hour school zone at 3:15 p.m. That timestamp made my jaw tighten. 3:15. Right when children were pouring out of Washington Elementary, after years on the bench, you learn to read people the moment they walk through the doors. They don't teach that in law school. It comes from watching human nature unfold case after case. When Madison Rivera entered my courtroom, everything about her signaled entitlement. She wore a cream-colored Chanel suit that likely cost more than $4,000. Red-soled Louboutin heels. I recognized them because my daughter once showed me a pair in a magazine and nearly fainted at the $1,200 price tag. The Hermes bag was unmistakable. That orange box logo sticks with you, but it wasn't the clothes that stood out most. It was her expression. No nerves. No apology, just irritation. As if appearing in court was a scheduling inconvenience, she sat at the defense table and immediately pulled out her phone, scrolling while my clerk read the charges aloud. The citation had been issued by Officer Daniel Martinez, 11 years on the force. I'd seen him testify dozens of times. Thorough. Professional. Honest. His report was precise. March 7th, 3 to 14 p.m. Riverside Avenue. A radar confirmed 78 mph posted limit, 35 mph active school zone, dismissal time, 3 to 10 p.m. Then I read the note at the bottom. Defendant became belligerent upon stop, refused to provide license and registration. Stated her father is Police Chief Joseph Rivera and that I would regret issuing citation. Documents provided after fourth request. I looked up. She was still scrolling. I cleared my throat. Nothing, Ms. Rivera, I said. In no response I raised my voice. Ms. Rivera, put the phone away and stand up. She looked at me as though I had insulted her. Slowly, she stood, phone still in hand. Put it in your bag. She rolled her eyes, actually rolled her eyes. I asked if she understood the charge against her. She shrugged. Some cop had a bad day and decided to take it out on me. I felt my patience thinning. I explained it clearly. Reckless driving. Nearly double the speed limit. In a school zone. At dismissal time, you could have killed a child, I said. She laughed, but I didn't, she replied. So what's the big deal? That's when I knew this wasn't just a traffic violation. I asked if she had anything in her defense. I was late for a hair appointment. A hair appointment. At 78 miles per hour. I began explaining what could have happened. A child stepping into the road, a parent with a stroller, a crossing guard. At that speed, she wouldn't have stopped in time. She cut me off mid-sentence. Are you done lecturing me? My dad is the police chief. Just call him and we can clear this up. Something shifted inside me, not anger, clarity. I told her father's title had no relevance in my courtroom. Everyone stands equal before the law here. She smirked. Whatever, old man. Just find me whatever and I'll be out of here. Before I could respond, the prosecutor, Linda Chen, rose and asked to approach. The bench. She whispered, Your Honor, there's more. May we take a 5-minute recess? I agreed. Madison huffed and pulled out her phone again. Back in chambers, Linda handed me her own phone. Look at this. It was Instagram, Madison Rivera's account. Public. 53,000 followers. She scrolled to March 7th, 3:45 p.m., 30 minutes after the stop. A selfie in her car. A caption, just got pulled over by the cutest cop, lol. Don't worry, daddy will make it go away. Police chief's daughter above the law. Sorry, not sorry. I read it 3 times. Hashtags bragging about connections, over 2,000 comments. Encouragement. Applause. Then another post. A video from that evening, drinks with friends. She was laughing, and then this old cop got all serious like, you could have killed someone. And I was like, but I didn't though. It was so dramatic. Laughter erupted around her. Someone asked if she'd get in trouble. She took a sip and said, please. My dad runs the department. This disappears by tomorrow. I handed the phone back slowly. This wasn't arrogance. It was corruption in plain sight. Linda told me Officer Martinez's daughter had seen the post and alerted her father. He preserved screenshots. Then she said something else. 3 officers had quietly confirmed that Chief Rivera had made at least 5 of his daughter's previous citations vanish over the past 2 years. Pressure had been applied. Assignments threatened. I felt a weight settle in my chest. How many times had she driven like this? How many close calls? How long before luck ran out? I picked up my desk phone and dialed a number I'd only used twice before. State Police Internal Affairs. Detective Sarah Walsh answered. I laid it all out. The reckless driving, the posts, the prior erased citations, the officer's statements. She listened carefully. When I finished, she said, Judge, Chief Rivera has been on our radar for months. Rumors, but not enough to open a case. What you're describing might be what we need. I told her I had documentation, witness statements, and a defendant currently in my courtroom who believed she was untouchable. She said she could be at the courthouse shortly, and that's when I realized this Tuesday morning traffic case was about to become something much bigger. Perfect. You want this rewritten cleanly, cinematic, and powerful, same story, no filler promos, smooth narration. Here's the polished continuation. She said she could be there in 40 minutes. I told her to come straight to my chambers and bring whatever documentation she had. I hung up and looked at Linda. I told her we were going back into the courtroom, but we wouldn't be proceeding with the case yet. I was continuing it for 2 hours. Linda looked confused, but she nodded. When we returned, Madison was still on her phone. I took my seat and struck the gavel. She looked up, clearly irritated. I informed her that due to new information, her case was being continued until 1:00 p.m. She started to protest. I cut her off. She had 2 options. She could sit quietly in my courtroom and wait, or she could step out for lunch and return by 1 p.m. sharp. If she was not in her seat at 1 p.m., I would issue a bench warrant for her arrest. She stood up in disbelief. This is ridiculous. You can't make me wait around all day. I met her stare. Miss Rivera, I can, and I am. You're dismissed until 1 p.m. She grabbed her bag and stormed out. I watched her leave, wondering if she had any idea what was coming. The next 2 hours felt endless. Detective Walsh arrived with her partner, Detective Marcus Johnson. They brought files, stacks of them. They had been building a case against Chief Rivera for nearly 3 months. 8 officers had given statements about traffic citations that mysteriously disappeared. There were records showing department funds used for personal expenses. The evidence was extensive. What they hadn't had until now was proof that the chief had directly interfered to erase his daughter's tickets. The Instagram posts changed everything. Madison's own words admitted that her father made her legal problems vanish. Combined with officer testimony, it was enough to open a formal investigation, but Detective Walsh wanted more. She wanted to see how Madison behaved under pressure. She wanted to know if Madison would say more, if she would incriminate herself and her father further. It was risky, but if it exposed corruption, it was worth it. At 12:55 p.m., Madison returned. She wasn't alone. With her was a man in an expensive suit, clearly a lawyer, and an older man in a police chief's uniform. Joseph Rivera. His face was red. His jaw was tight. They sat at the defense table. At exactly 1 p.m., I struck the gavel. Before I could speak, Chief Rivera stood. Your Honor, I'm Police Chief Joseph Rivera. I'm here to speak on my daughter's behalf. I looked at him calmly. Chief Rivera, unless you are a licensed attorney, you have no standing in this courtroom. Sit down. He hesitated, then Saturday the attorney stood next. Robert Kensington, he said. A major downtown firm. He entered a plea of not guilty and immediately moved to dismiss the case for lack of evidence and improper procedure. I asked him to explain. He launched into a rehearsed argument, claims of an unlawful stop, an improperly calibrated radar gun, unclear school zone signage. It was nonsense. I let him finish, then I said, Counselor, I've reviewed Officer Martinez's report. The radar was calibrated that morning. The signage meets all state requirements. Your motion to dismiss is denied. The shock on his face was unmistakable. He tried again. He described Madison as a young woman of good character who had made a minor mistake and requested the charge be reduced to a simple speeding violation with a small fine. That's when I knew it was timed. I turned to Madison. Miss Rivera, I have some questions. You have the right to remain silent, but it would be in your best interest to answer honestly. She glanced at her lawyer. He nodded reluctantly. Fine, she said. I asked if she had social media accounts. Yes. I asked if she posted about this traffic stop. Her eyes widened. Her lawyer leaned in to whisper something, but she ignored him. Maybe, she said. I don't remember everything I post. I nodded to my clerk. Within seconds, her Instagram post appeared on the courtroom monitor. The selfie, the caption, the hashtags bragging about being above the law. The courtroom fell silent. Color drained from Madison's face. Her lawyer put his head in his hands. Chief Rivera started to stand, but I pointed at him. Sit down, or I'll have you removed. I turned back to Madison. Are those your posts? She nodded. For the record? Yes. I asked what she meant when she wrote that her father would make this go away. She didn't answer. I asked again. Her lawyer told her not to respond. I looked at him. Counselor, your client has already admitted these posts are hers. They're public. She's going to answer. Madison swallowed. My dad has helped me with tickets before, she said quietly. How many times? I asked. I don't know. A few. I leaned forward. When you say helped, do you mean he paid the fines, or that the citations disappeared? Her lawyer was visibly panicking now, but something inside Madison cracked. The citations went away, she said. He talked to the officers. How many times? At least 5 or 6. I asked her if she thought that was fair. If she believed it was right that she faced no consequences while others did. She began to cry real tears. I didn't think it was a big deal, she said. They were just speeding tickets. I looked at her, no longer arrogant, no longer smug. Just a young woman finally realizing actions have consequences. Then I turned to Chief Rivera. Chief Rivera, I'm going to ask you some questions. You're not under oath, but there are people here who care deeply about your answers. I gestured toward the back. Detective Walsh. Detective Johnson. Chief Rivera's eyes found them, and I watched the blood drain from his face. Did you use your position as police chief to make traffic citations against your daughter disappear? He looked at his daughter, then the detectives, then me. I want to speak to a lawyer, he said. I nodded. That's your right. But understand this, your daughter has just admitted under oath that you erased multiple citations. We have officer testimony. We have public admissions. This is no longer something that can be denied. Detective Walsh stood and walked down the aisle. Chief Joseph Rivera, she said, I'm Detective Sarah Walsh with State Police Internal Affairs. We are opening a formal investigation into corruption and abuse of power. You'll be hearing from us soon. The courtroom was silent. This was no longer a traffic case, this was corruption exposed. Here is your rewritten version in clear, powerful English with smoother flow and strong storytelling impact, perfect for narration or video content. I told her to stand. She rose slowly, her hands trembling. Her attorney stood beside her. I looked directly at her and said what I had decided to say the moment I saw those Instagram posts. I told her she was young, privileged, and had been shielded from consequences her entire life. Her behavior wasn't just careless, it was dangerous. She could have killed someone. For years she had been speeding recklessly, escaping accountability because of who her father was, but luck doesn't last forever. One day she would have hit someone, a child, a parent, a grandparent. Someone innocent could have died because she was late to a salon appointment or brunch, something trivial that felt important only in that moment. Her social media posts showed shocking arrogance. She bragged about being untouchable. She mocked the officer who was simply doing his job. She showed open contempt for the law and for the safety of her own community. Then I delivered my ruling. I found her guilty of reckless driving. I fined her $5,000. I suspended her license for 1 year. I ordered 100 hours of community service to be completed at Washington Elementary School, the very school zone where she was caught speeding. She would help with traffic safety. She would watch parents drop off their children. She would see the lives she had put at risk. But I wasn't finished. She was ordered to remove every social media post about the case and publish a genuine public apology, not a PR statement. She would apologize to Officer Martinez. She would apologize to the community. She would admit her wrongdoing and commit to change, and I made one thing very clear: if she ever stood in my courtroom again for something similar, I would impose the maximum penalty allowed by law, including jail time. The arrogance disappeared. Tears streamed down her face. She nodded softly and said, "Yes, Your Honor." Her attorney knew better than to argue. Then I spoke not as a judge, but from the heart. I told her I believe people can change. This could be her turning point. At 24, she had her entire life ahead of her. She could learn from this, or continue down a path that would end far worse. Privilege is not a shield. It is a responsibility. Those with advantages have a duty to set a better example, not place themselves above the law. Then I addressed her father, Chief Rivera. He had failed his daughter by protecting her from consequences. He taught her that rules were optional for the powerful. That is the opposite of what a police chief should represent. The courtroom was silent. This was no longer just a traffic case. It was about justice. Accountability. Equality under the law. I struck the gavel. Court is adjourned. Within hours, the story spread. A video went viral. The public response was overwhelming. Many thanked me. Some criticized me. But I did not regret my decision. Madison completed all 100 hours of community service. The school principal reported she showed up every day, respectful and on time. Her apology was sincere. Chief Rivera resigned before the investigation concluded. Several officers were disciplined. Department policies were changed. Officer Martinez, the officer who wrote the original ticket, was later promoted. He had endured threats for simply doing his job. That takes courage. I think about that case often, not because it was dramatic, but because it mattered. Justice is not about power. IT is not about wealth. IT is about equal standards. In my courtroom, everyone is treated the same. Madison is 25 now. Her license suspension is over. I don't know if she has truly changed, but I hope when she gets behind the wheel, she remembers those children at Washington Elementary, because the law can punish, the law can deter, but real change comes from within, and that is what justice is truly about.